Ron Carter. Today our discussion is, well, actually the airlines are responsible for this part of the podcast. For about 10 years now, bass players have not been allowed to take their bass that they dearly love on the plane for whatever reasons the airlines decides to tell you. So having said that, our option is to get to the gig and hope that the promoter has given us something to work with. I have my associate here. I'll turn it off for just one moment. Now don't go away. So I have a process here that's a part of my book 2. It's called Blueprint for a Working Jazz Bassist. Oftentimes when I get to the theater or the nightclub, there's a bass that doesn't look like it's mine. And my first observation is correct, because it is not mine. So I have a process here. I have in this book 2 of bass player. It's called How to Audition a New Bass. And that means I have a process I go through religiously whenever I'm playing the bass for the first time and I got to go to work right now. So this part of the podcast, I'm playing, in this case, well, a C major scale. And my process is I'll play the C major scale with 4 different fingerings to find out about this part of the bass. My general sense of this part doesn't get the wear and tear that I like to have them have, so what I try to do is play a scale, in this case C major, it's in the mid-range of the bass, and I think that when you hear the different sounds, I try to make them as even as possible on the bass that happens to be not mine. Having said that, I do this routine in my ear at the quarter note is 92, so I get my secretary here to wake up. Thank you. So the first thing I do is play the C major scale with the 4th finger. Now I play the C scale with the 2nd finger. Now I play with the 1st finger. Or down on the E string. The advantage of having these different fingerings for a note C that your hand is opened up to a different combination of notes. What I want is this combination to sound like I'm not going anywhere, that I'm playing more this way, what we call horizontally, rather than vertically. So if I play with 1st finger C, I have these choices. 2nd finger C, 4th finger C, so I'll play a blues here, and I just kind of move around with this finger, C scale range, and see how similar the sounds are as I'm aiming to do. last time. One hand. There. You know, you can pick any scale. From A to C is, for me, one of the purest scales on this instrument. And it's nice to be able to have something that you know how your bass sounds playing it. And I think to be able to transfer that really familiar sound of how the notes sound on your bass and where they're located. If you can transfer that concept to a strange bass to let you know that this bass allows you to play this range, but maybe some range is better. Maybe just not there on this bass that you stretch it. Or harmonics. All these things that you follow my book plan here, that covers 20 things that you can do to make yourself successfully navigate a strange bass. I call it auditioning a new bass. There are a couple of things here also with this this issue of the cast here. I have a new book that just quietly hit the market with a quiet bang. It's called A Blueprint for the Jazz Bassist. And there's some really wonderful things that you to check out as to how it makes the bass more user-friendly. Having said that, there's a button. You go to my site, you press this button, and you don't get this. You get a nice blue button. You hit that button, it takes you right down to the site that you've ordered stuff in the catalog. That contains stuff for 2 basses, stuff for 4 basses, stuff for 6, stuff for 8 with samples of those sounds. Those cello players who want to know how we do it, there's pieces for 4 cellos. For special offer, I think that since this is a holiday spirit and I've been told to emulate that spirit, whatever you order, whatever book or series of books you order, I've been ordered to sign them. So I will do that with great pleasure to have you have a book that contains my view of how I see the bass through my windows. That sale is on until I get tired of signing my name, so make me get tired. You know, it's about time to ask questions, but can I do this thing in B flat? Yeah, okay, here we go. Here we go. Fourth finger. Second finger. B flat. They're all good. Just find one that's the sound you like on your bass and try to make your bass be the standard of playing on a strings instrument. I think it's time for a couple of questions here. How many? 16? Well, can we get faster? Here's one.
Raymond is asking, could you please talk about how do you approach a normal rehearsal day? Warm-up techniques, scales, etc.
I use the same process when I'm playing with my own fiddle as I recommend you do to when you're auditioning a new bass. I pick a scale. In this case, I pick B flat for the day. Half step up. Or I'll play some arpeggios. I think the important thing for me is play it long tone so my hands, since I have no specific exercises that I do to theoretically loosen my joints and stuff, a half note scale at 92 is a great way to loosen up your joints and have your hands a little more ready to go to work.
Arlington is asking, how do you deal with the different action on a strange bass?
I have a rule, and one of my rules is to physically alter a strange bass as little as possible. Because when I leave this gig and leave this bass, he or she has to contend with this bass that's now been fundamentally altered. So I made a point never to do that. In Europe, they're not really comfortable with using adjusters on the bass height, so it presents a problem. It presents a problem for someone who is used to being able to manipulate the height of the strings between the fingerboard and the tailpiece, and the fingerboard and the string height itself. I try to use a kind of a number 2 pencil as my general height between the string and the fingerboard. And I've been very lucky, and basses I've stumbled across that have been mine have been a reasonable height. I've seen some of those where the bass player is an acoustic intentioned player who doesn't have any kind of amplifier on his bass, and those strings are really anywhere from a ½ inch to an inch up to fingerboard, and I've told the promoter if that's what that is, I'm not going to play this bass, and they find me another one. And I've been lucky to say that they've either found one, or the bass player whose bass that is has a second one that he has available to use to run out, and I'm happy to say that they were gracious enough to allow me to play those basses whose height of the strings was more in my liking.
Last question for today. Vincent is asking, can you please talk about how you developed your amazing ear? Your ability to hear and complement what the world's greatest jazz pianists inject harmonically into tunes in the moment is unsurpassed. How do you develop this ability? Thank you.
Well, you know, part of that development is having the piano player, in this case, trust my notes. If we have a blues in C, the next note could be C, but I'll play this note. It's all right there, back there. So having him trust my judgment allows me to step outside the harmonic envelope faster. And fortunately, I've been doing this for a really long time, and my students have helped me understand what exactly I do, to the extent that my books that are available on my site are the results of taking lessons and giving lessons to students who will give me lessons by asking me a question. How do you get that note? How do you find that note? Well, my comprehensive bass method has exercises that I have worked out, and I use them continuously. I recommend you get these books so you can find out how I have placed my hand in the right area to find these notes. I understand harmony pretty well, and my recommendation to bass players who want to kind of check out harmony is get the book of Bach chorales and just kind of stumble through harmony and understand what the bass does to the top of note of all those chords. It's really quite amazing and quite ahead of its time as I have viewed bass lines. That's helped me understand the dynamic need for a really important bass note in the key of C to play a D flat on the downbeat. F sharp. G flat. C sharp. So, we have a promotion. I just learned that word last week, promotion. I thought it was like going from second grade to the third grade in kindergarten. I was wrong. Anyway, if you go to my site, you'll find a button. Not this one. Nice button. And you press that button and it takes you right to my site. And my catalog, which is fortunately growing every week, the more things we can get to put in there, some interesting things for you. My hope is that you'll stop and take a moment, take a look at it. And those of you who are playing Santa this year, maybe Santa would give your friends some nice bass books to add to their library of not just good reading, but ways to get bass more friendly. How does he do that? How do you find those notes? What tunes are his? What's the right melody? Those questions are easily answered by all the books that are in my fledgling publishing company. Take a look. Season's greetings. Happy Thanksgiving. I don't have a Thanksgiving song. I just got the same blues and C. Happy Thanksgiving.